Hi everyone, I'm your host Danielle Hernandez and welcome to Let's Talk About Us. Well, the Supreme Court is having a hell of a week and I am so grateful for them because they are finally stepping up and saying, you matter, you're protected, everybody is protected. This weekend was Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And to all the fathers who have abandoned their duties, there is no sperm donor day. But hey, it's never too late to reclaim your place as a father. All you have to do is take responsibility for the people you created. Now, as we have been celebrating Father's Day this past weekend, I want to thank all the fathers out there who are going out of their way to protect their families, protect their friends, and protect themselves. Rock on, June. It's definitely been the month that has turbulently woken up a lot of people who were, what's the word, in a quarantine days? Black lives matter. All lives matter. Because all lives matter, I can openly say, Black lives matter. A lot of people feel like they shouldn't have to say it because we all know already. But this is the fact. Regardless of all lives mattering, human beings do not act that way, do they? Despite all lives mattering, humans find reasons to hurt one another, lie to one another, exclude one another, etc., etc., etc. So this Black Lives Matter movement is not about excluding all the other lives, because it's time to say it. Everyone has to say it. Not to mention that the subject of all lives matter is problematic on its own. If all lives truly matter, why do we comply with the concept of war? Wouldn't it be more important to keep everyone alive rather than have a pissing contest? If we all truly believed all lives matter, then why don't we ensure safer and more sanitary conditions for living for all lives? If all lives matter, then why don't we have safer reforms on birth control and make it such a big issue? Now, did you guys see that interview where Mike Pence was being asked to say, Black Lives Matter? Yes, Mr. Pence, can you please just say Black Lives Matter? Well, now I believe all lives matter. And yes, well, can you say Black Lives Matter? And well, we are not gonna defund the police because we believe blue lives matter, and that's not in question. Can you say the words Black Lives Matter? That's a silly question. Of course, you physically are able to, but will you? Why not if you won't? Because the why not is so important right now. We are in a time of humanity where information is rapidly spread, for once. But there's so much information out there that it's bamboozling. It's really easy to get swept up in an emotional tidal wave that isn't necessarily true. It's just triggering our own traumas. Hi, human. I know you've got traumas. I've got traumas too. The traumas in me recognize the traumas in you. Now that we've addressed that, what the hell is going on? So, we just had our first acknowledged Juneteenth ever. That's not to say that people weren't celebrating it beforehand. It's to say that corporations have jumped on the bandwagon. Nationwide, we recognize Juneteenth is important. It's easy to say these things. It's harder to recognize our own willful ignorance. I will now acknowledge my own willful ignorance. For years, I have seen Juneteenth on the calendar and vaguely wondered, what's that? And then proceeded to move on with my life as opposed to looking it up. That's called willful ignorance because I had a curiosity, but I passed on it. Now, it's easy to look at things that we have willful ignorance about that's commonplace, like calculus. I know calculus exists, but I'm willfully ignorant about how it works because I don't care. It's important to acknowledge when we are not caring about something, especially when the whole world is erupting and saying, hello, it is super important that you care about this thing, like people, like the planet, like the way we treat things. The way we treat people and the way we treat the planet really mirror one another. The year is 2020, and as every corporation scrambles to celebrate Juneteenth, it highlights that this has always been an important acknowledgement, and it took 155 years for that to happen. But listen, now that it has happened, let's make sure it's here to stay, okay? Create your own traditions about Juneteenth. We must educate ourselves. We must reach out and support one another. We must new rituals and new traditions because that's how old traditions grow. Otherwise, we would really be stuck doing some terrible things. For example, once upon a time, there was no plumbing. I live in the modern era. I suppose you do as well. How do you feel about plumbing? It's pretty cool, right? Poop goes from point A to point B in a flush. Get it, instead of a flash. Moving on. Before there was plumbing, people would live in their own squalor. Now, this did not matter whether you were rich, poor, white, black, orange, or the Pope. There was no plumbing. That was just what it was. See, it didn't bother people that literally there was shit everywhere because that was their norm. But of course there's shit everywhere. Where is it supposed to go? Chalk that up to, well, of course it's not a perfect system. What are you gonna do? Something has to be done. Because when you live amongst your own shit, you disease yourself. And you disease others, and you incapacitate potentially wonderful movements. Now we know sewers and plumbing existed in the past. The Romans had them, for example, but that went by the wayside because they required maintenance. It required that people understand the mechanics of an old technology and to decide to bring it into the future with them. Hashtag they didn't. So why am I talking about sewers and plumbing when I was previously talking about Black Lives Matter and Juneteenth? I'm talking about them because to us it's common sense because of the time we live in and the modern conveniences that we've grown to expect. However, there are people who are still not getting their needs met, their expectations met, and they still have those needs, and they expect that one day they're going to be fulfilled. So, what could use plumbing in your life? What needs to get flushed out? Especially if you are a person who is struggling with saying Black Lives Matter. I'm not here to demean you. I'm not here to invalidate you. But I am here to ask you to question why that's a problem. I know you have problems. Everybody has problems. But are we going to choose to live in the squalor of our problems? Or are we finally at the point where things are so uncomfortable and so full of shit that we are going to go, you know what? I bet we can make a change. You know what? We'll find a way to pay for this. You know what? We can afford to make a difference. Now, the good news is people are already saying that. People are already doing these things. But remember, we either join the movements or we get swept up and washed away because the change is here and we have to allow the old things to fall away. Whether you feel white supremacy is a problem or not doesn't mean it's not a problem. That's just how you feel about it. I would question that. I would also question how have you benefited from it? Even if you don't believe it's a thing. I'm telling you this, if you don't believe it's a thing, it's because the system is working for you. Did you guys hear all about the Tulsa rally this past weekend? That was also happening. They were expecting 1 million people. Thank you. Thank you, 1 million people, for not showing up. Regardless of you supporting Trump or not, we are still in a pandemic. So that was a choice. And we know people know because they had to sign waivers. Literally, they were like, well, if I get sick, I won't sue. Anyway, they were expecting up to 1 million people because of all these tickets that were reserved. And then the pithy number of 6,200 people. Can we please acknowledge the brilliance of our younger generation, now called Zoomers, which I love, who created a rebellion against the very dangerous and biological warfare that was this Trump rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Because you only create waivers for someone to sign away their rights when you know that you're threatening their well-being and the well-being of anyone who comes across them. That's biological warfare. That's criminal. But our Zoomers banded together, learned how to use the algorithm, and ensured that there would be a staggering amount of empty seats, saving lives. They have saved lives. So a round of applause for our Zoomers. You are brilliant. I loved it. It was amazing. Thank you for everyone who stayed home. May you stay safe, healthy, well. Now, just because some people signed away their rights to sue doesn't mean that anyone else did. Those 6,200 people all chose to converge together indoors during a pandemic. So it looks like anyone who interacts with them has the viability to sue the crap out of this nation for objectively ignoring health concerns, willfully throwing away their own health measures, and mocking people who are protecting the health of as many people as we can. Remember, our healthcare workers are slaving away night and day. And I know slaving is a really questionable choice of words right now, but it's because we're willfully putting all of this labor on them. We're not taking the measures that we need to be taking. We're looking at that pile of shit and going, I don't believe there's bacteria in here. You're such sheeple. Fire is the symbol of summer solstice. There have been fires around the world. People have long had a relationship to fire and smoke. Being able to breathe is actually what brought about the creation of the fireplace. Because before that, people would live in their huts and be trapped with their own smoke and fumes. Ventilation was a real problem. Now, how do these correlate? There have been fires around the world, particularly around the Amazon and Australia. These tremendous rainforests are known as the lungs of the planet, and those lungs have been on fire. The planet has not been able to breathe. And then this very same year, we came across a viral contagion that attacked the lungs and ensured that people could not breathe. Then, in the hate crime that sparked a nation and garnered the attention and devotion that the Black Lives Matter movement has needed, an officer of the law willfully crushes the life out of a black man, and his words repeatedly are, "I can't breathe." And he's not the only one who has died this way. So how long before we start paying attention to the stifling atmosphere that has been created? It's emotionally stifling, it's mentally stifling, and it's visibly stifling. The world can't breathe under these circumstances. We must expand. That's what happens when you breathe in. The lungs expand because they're filling with oxygen. Filling with oxygen fills us with energy. It fills us with life force. Let's zoom back in to the concept of fire creates smoke, smoke creates poor ventilation, and let's face it, as people we can asphyxiate and die. So, if a man is burning your house down, are you gonna trust that man and be like, well, at least he was open about burning that house down? In a room full of people who can't breathe, are you going to be the person who finds the exit and runs outside to the open air? Or are you going to be the person looking at the man fanning the flames and go, yeah, that seems like a good idea? Who sticks around the person fanning the flames? Who does that? Only the people who would benefit from it, right? Now, who follows the people who are helping other people out? That is the movement that we have to overwhelmingly join. And it does require that we speak up, that we speak out, that we interconnect and work together, that we find places that are organized, and that we learn to organize. Ha ha! I certainly need to embrace the ability to organize, because I know that that has been a struggle for me in the past, present, but I won't say future, because I'm determined to learn. Once upon a time, people had no sewers, and when the concept of a sewer came around again, they thought that was crazy. What a waste of time and money. You'll never get it done, kid, never. But we all know, we did get it done. And on top of that, it has fundamentally changed health and hygiene around the world. Around the world. Now, sure, even modern plumbing is problematic in its own sense. I mean, for heaven's sakes, we are literally dumping our human waste into water. And it's not funny, it's just like, one day we'll come up with something better. We aren't there yet, but it's about improving always. It's great that we have plumbing now, but it's not the be-all end-all. There's going to be something that replaces it one day. Maybe we'll be alive for that change. Maybe we won't. I don't know. But we are witnessing changes in our lifetime right now. And we are witnessing changes in ourselves right now. And we are witnessing opportunities to create new factions, new coalitions, and new ways to support humanity right now. Take your anger and make it energy and fuel for driving your life forward. Be brave enough to say, Black Lives Matter. Now that we know that, this is what we're going to do about it. Quality of life matters for every single human. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for talking about us. Breathe deep and expand, everyone. We all have the right to take up space, and there's plenty of space for us to share. All right, everyone, Danielle out. I'll see you next week.